The Trim Surfaces tool is a way for you to use a curve-on surface to hide away a part of a NURBS surface. It's kind of like a Boolean operation, except that it's not really removing any geometry. Let me give you a quick example. We'll start off by creating a NURBS plane, something very simple. And let's create a circle, which I'll scale up. Let's come over here to the top view. And let's select the surface, then the circle. We'll go to Edit NURBS and project the curve onto the surface. And then we can delete out our original circle because we won't be needing it anymore. Now, because I have an entirely enclosed area, I can now use the Trim tool to remove one part of the surface, either the part inside the circle or outside of it, like so. Let's go to Edit NURBS, open up the Trim tool, and we'll go ahead and show the options for now. I'll leave the options at their default settings. Make sure I reset just in case. When you click on the surface is going to highlight with white dashed lines. Now, depending on what kind of video card you have, things might get a little bit flickery at this point. Don't worry about it. It's very common. I've seen it many times. Now, you need to choose which side of the surface you want to affect. And over here in your settings, you have selected state, which is set to keep or discard. If it's set to keep, which is the default setting, then you click on the side of the surface you want to keep. So in this case, I click here on the outside. Notice the dashed lines become solid lines. And now I press Enter, and we end up with a hole in the middle of our plane. Now, don't be fooled. This is just a rendering trick. This is just showing you that there is some geometry that is no longer there. In effect, it's just hiding stuff away. It's not really cutting that out. As we all know, NURBS surfaces have to be perfect squares. They only can have 4 sides, so you can't really have a 4-sided object that has a hole in the middle of it. I can prove it. If you hold down the right mouse button and go over to Control Vertex, you'll see you still have 4 CVs floating right in the middle of your plane, and you can use them to control the shape of the plane. All you've done is tell Maya that you don't want to show what is inside that circle, which is the very nature of the Trim tool. Now, you also have a checkbox here for shrinking a surface down, which if you're trimming down to something and you notice that your hole is a little bit big, you can shrink your surface down. This is going to take your entire surface and actually make it just a tad smaller. Untrimming it will not grow it back out. You'd actually have to hit the undo key. Just keep that in mind. You can also control the tolerance, or how accurate your trim is going to be. And notice the accuracy is already very precise right now. It's a very, very small number. But you still have a little bit of jagginess. This has to do with the tessellation of the surface. Just as a real quick example, we could go into the Shape node, go under Tessellation, and display the render tessellation for this. And I can start lifting up the tessellation. Let's go to Advanced. And I mean, if you need that hole to get rounder, all you need to do is start increasing that NURBS tessellation. You can make that very, very round. So that's really all there is to trimming. Now, you can use this in a lot of different ways. Just remember, a trim surface is not going to be the exact same thing as a regular NURBS surface. Actually, it has kind of a different behavior. Let me go ahead and do the example we did in the last video. Create a sphere and a cylinder. We'll rotate this off to the side, kind of stick it through. Let's grab these 2 surfaces. We'll go to Edit NURBS and intersect these 2, just like we did a little while back. Now let's grab the Trim tool, and I'll keep the outside of the sphere, so I click on that. And you can click on this as many times as you want, by the way. Now, just for the fun of it, I'll grab my tool again, and we'll switch its selected state over to Discard, and now I'll click on the outside of the cylinder and press Enter, and notice, because I changed the state of it, that I'm now discarding whatever it is I clicked on. So now, if you right mouse, you have everything that you had before. You have your control vertices, isoparms, and whatnot, but you have a new one. You have Trim Edge. You have the ability to select that curve where the trim took place. In effect, the curve on surface that was used to calculate the trim itself. And from here, you can do other operations as well. We could, for example, duplicate the surface curve and then select that. We grab the trim edge and then this curve and maybe run a loft in between the 2. So you can continue with modeling from that by using that particular component. That's really everything that I wanted to talk about as far as the trim tool. Very easy tool, very nice way to get a variety of effects using NURBS modeling. So it's going to wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.